Hello and welcome back to Heirs and Graces. I smile. Maybe I'm being insensitive, but I actually think the reaction's kind of cute. You know, maybe green's just your favourite colour. Kamal smiles. Maybe. Anyway, I should probably get back to picking out more green flowers now. Flash him a small smile and respond to his joke. I'm counting on you. Kamal nods and turns his attention back to his book. I take a moment to stretch and get back to mine as well. After a bit of searching, I find one that I really like. Blue, star-shaped flower with black edges. To make its design even more interesting, there's a small white specks decorating each petal, making it look like a night sky. I look at the description, hoping there isn't anything that might prevent us from planting it. Let's see. The most commonly appearing is pictured with a blue base colour to it. Darkling star occasionally comes in purple and red variants. Kind of a weird name, but I guess it doesn't matter. The red and purple ones are pretty too. Skim a little more of the paragraph. A little lower down, the text mentions that the darkling star is associated with bitterness in flower language. Probably not a feeling you want to express towards any guests you might invite to your garden. I'm debating whether or not I care when Kamal pokes his head over the top of his book. See something interesting? I like this one, but I don't know. Kamal gets up from his seat and positions himself behind me to look over my shoulder. It's pretty. It is. It means bitterness. So I'm thinking it wouldn't send the right message to guests. Actually, I imagine it's exactly the message Lord Sandor would like to send. Maybe. Doesn't mean that he should send it. Fair enough. Still, I don't think it's a big deal. If you like them, we should plant them. You really think so? I do. Still not sure as he is. But in any case, I look over the rest of the information to see if there are going to be any further complications. Long story short, there are. I think we should pass after all. Why? They're pretty, but they have very specific shade requirements, and they're likely to actively kill off other plants nearby. Well, that is troublesome. Let's work on something easier for now. I'm a little disappointed. I really like them. Still, life is cruel. Should have learnt that lesson by now. If you're sure. I nod and turn the page, and Kamal stays put, and we look at them together instead of separately. After about an hour, we've narrowed it down to a few candidates. One's this puffy white flower. Looks a little goofy, but it's kind of fun. Definitely a very welcoming sort of flower. The other is a delicate red one that would add an air of refinement to the garden. Both of them are apparently pretty easy to maintain, so it all comes down to what kind of aura we'd like to give the garden. So, what do you think? Which one should we start with? I think you should pick. This was your idea. Right. Well, I guess I like... always go with red. Considering the flower is going to be grown on a noble estate, I think we'd better go the classy route. Kamal nods. I think Vincent will approve of your choice. What about Lord Sandor? He's the one who has the ultimate say, after all. To be honest, I imagine he wouldn't care if we torched the garden. That's a bit depressing. But the other nobles should be able to appreciate the flower's beauty properly. I hope so. It'd be kind of a waste if we put in the effort and no one appreciated it. I appreciate it. I smile. Then I appreciate the work you put into it in return. Kamal smiles smugly. And that, by the way, you don't have to worry about no one appreciating it. Fair point. I shut the book, place it back on the pile. Well, we made a decision. Now we just have to see about getting the seeds. Well, that shouldn't be a problem. We picked one that was fairly easy to get. Even if the merchants don't have it on hand, I should be able to ask them to acquire some. Right, so that's the plan then. Next time we both have some free time, let's go see if we can buy them. Agreed? Agreed. I get up from my chair and look over the pile of books. If we're done with them, we should put them back in their proper places. Are we done with the books for now? Don't worry about it. I'll put them back. I'll help. You're more likely to get in the way, considering they should be all roughly in the same spot. Deal with it. I'm not leaving you to do it by yourself. Kamal smiles. All right, boss, if you insist. That's undisputed King of Aravorn, Marcel the High Esteemed to you. Ah, this is actually set in Aravorn, is it? Interesting. There's no way I'll remember that. And make up something just as epic. I grab half the stack and head over to the shelf. Kamal grabs his half and joins me. Ah. Okay, so our decorum is doing quite well. I'm going to change that one to that. Just to balance, just to get our etiquette up a little higher. So we're in week 5 of 34, so we seem to be getting through this in effect, Lip. Result normal. Result good. Charisma +1. By gaining relationship status with Eloy. Or is it Lee? Okay. Who is somebody I've never even heard of, so. The sun is high in the sky by the time I finish helping Kamal in the garden and head inside. I wipe the sweat off my brow and am immediately ambushed by Vincent. Looks a bit annoyed though. It's hard to say for certain since he's generally good at hiding his emotions. I just hope it's not me he's annoyed with. Ah, Marcel, there you are. Did you need something? We have a guest. Lord Sandor is planning to hold a proper dinner in the dining hall for the occasion, and has requested that you be there to wait on him. He says it'll be a good experience for you, and I quite agree. Right. Guess it would be, as long as I don't screw it up. I haven't been working here that long, though. Trusting me with a task this important so soon doesn't seem like the greatest of ideas to me. Then again, I have to start sometime, right? Might as well be now. And if it's just serving food, I can probably manage just fine, as long as I keep my mouth shut. I've just got to keep a positive attitude about this. Alright. Vincent shifts uncomfortably before speaking his mind. I would highly recommend taking a bath beforehand. Skill check. Tidiness. Required value. Actual value 0. I understand that working in the garden is a dirty job, but if you appear in front of Lord Sandar and Lord Shiran in a state such as this, you will humiliate the whole household. Also, I would appreciate it if you scrape the mud off your shoes before heading inside from now on. Bollocks. I whirl around and look at the tiles I just stepped on, and sure enough there are muddy footprints to where I'm standing. I blush brightly, wondering how I'd forgotten something as simple as that. I'll clean it up. Never mind that, I will deal with it myself. You just focus on getting cleaned up for tonight. Sorry, Vincent. Please take more care in future. Right. Anyway, just go and do that and meet me in the kitchen. I'll run you through everything and give you some pointers. And Marcel? Yes? Don't worry too much. You won't be the only one there, so if you do mess up, there will be others to cover for you. Thanks, Vincent. I appreciate it. He nods, and I dismiss myself and go get cleaned up. When I'm done, I head back to the kitchen as Vincent had requested. The cook is hovering over a pot of boiling water as a couple of female servants peel potatoes and chop vegetables. Vincent gives them a couple of orders and heads over to where I am. He reaches out and adjusts my shirt collar before circling around me like a vulture, correcting some of the more nitpicky details. When he's finally satisfied, he stops in front of me. That should do it. How are you feeling about this? I blink, going over the question once more. I didn't exactly expect Vincent to be concerned about my mental state going into this. And again, he might just be overly concerned about the possibility of me screwing this up. Fine, I think. Good. I was getting really nervous the first time I asked to do something like this. That's another unexpected response. He actually seems like a person for a brief second. And then he straightens up and resumes his professional butler act. He's a professional butcher act. Incidentally, is it just because the way the fire lines up with that look kind of cool? Yeah, I don't think it was on purpose, it just does. The guest that you'll be tending to is a highborn elf from Grantry named Eloy Sharan. You'll be dressing him as Lord Shiran. An elf, huh? Never actually had a chance to meet an elf, especially an important one. I have to admit, I'm a little interested. I've always imagined them as intelligent, dignified people. He is quite enthralled with himself and likes to provoke servants. That is about as nicely as I can phrase it. Those words do not leave this room. Is that understood? I nod in response. And there go my intelligent and dignified elf fantasies. I should have known better. Do not let him get under your skin, and give him as little as possible to work with. I highly recommend keeping interactions with him to a minimum. I get the feeling that this Lord Shiran is the reason Vincent looked so cross earlier today. That being said, he tends to be a bit more lenient than other nobles if you make a mistake, which is probably why Lord Sandor is starting you off with him. I should also probably mention that, unlike most of our guests, Lord Sandar actually likes Lord Shiran, which is just another reason to keep yourself in check around him. Now, I think that's all I have to say about Lord Shiran. You'll get a better idea of his character once you've actually met him. If you don't have any questions, I'd like to move on. I'm good, he can continue. Vincent starts going over what I'll have to do as a server. He's as thorough as always, and even though I've been able to figure out most of the subtleties of the job on my own, it is helpful. Once he's given me the full lecture, he has me help with a few minor kitchen chores before it's time for dinner. Vincent leaves for a few minutes to collect Lord Sandar and Lord Shiran. I, on the other hand, try to focus on the task ahead, and not on the various scenes of high-class food I can't actually eat. It's not an easy task, but luckily Vincent doesn't take too long to return. Lord Sandar and Lord Shiran are seated. The next thing to do is fill their glasses, bring out the appetizers. I'm pretty sure he says this more for my sake than the others, seeing as the female servants already have the first set of dishes in their hands. The cook picks up tonight's selected bottle of wine and hands it to me. This isn't a surprise. Vincent already told me he was going to put me in charge of drinks. I head for the door, and Vincent gives me a small nod. I take a deep breath and push the door open to get to the dining room. Vincent told me to serve the guests first, so I head towards Lord Shiran. He's handsome and well-dressed. Looks to be about my age, but he's an elf, so he could well be much, much older for all I know. I avoid making eye contact as I go to his side, and I swear I can feel his eyes on me as I pour the wine into his glass. When I finish, I step back and move on to Lord Sandar. I notice that he still looks pale. I don't think he's gotten any better since I last saw him. You know, your butler is the only servant I recognise from the last time I was here. Most of them have moved on. Kamal is still here, though. Ah, the ex-gladiator, right? That's right. I finish pouring Lord Sandar's wine and step back as Vincent had instructed. So far, so good. All I have to do is keep this up until the dinner is over. Maybe you should pull more servants from the arena. They might be the only ones tough enough to endure your reign of terror. My eyes go wide. That is not something you should say to a lord. But instead of being insulted, Lord Sandar smiles. Probably. Doesn't explain Vincent, though. Nothing explains Vincent. The door to the kitchen swings open, and the female servants come in with their dishes. They reach the table, set them down with an admirable amount of grace. Lord Shiran beckons the one nearer to him closer. She goes to his side and leans over as he whispers something in her ear. When he finishes, the servant blushes a bright red. Eloy. After letting out a tired sigh, he turns his attention to the girl. Ignore him and get back to the kitchen. The female servant gives him a quick bow and scurries off. Guess that's what Vincent meant when he said Lord Shiran likes to provoke the servants. Sorry. I can't help myself. She was cute. I had to tell her. She's a servant. Even if that's what you really think, you have no future with her. Don't give her a reason to think otherwise. It's rich coming from him. I bite my lip and try to tone out the conversation. If I let Lord Sandar get me any anger, it'll start to show. The female servants come and go, placing down new dishes and taking away old ones. Lord Sandar has me refill his glass at one point, but other than that, I'm mostly stuck just standing there. It's boring, but it's pretty easy. I notice Lord Shiran's cup is almost empty and head over. He strikes up another conversation in a surprisingly earnest tone. Oh, I'm just going to come out and say it. You look awful. Not as awful as you. I'm being serious. Your health isn't a joke. You've seen a doctor about it, right? Several. What did they say? Lord Sandar takes a sip of his wine. Lord Shiran's brow creases further in concern. A silence hangs in the air for a long moment before Lord Shiran repeats the question with more force. What did they say? It's terminal. I don't realise I'm pouring the wine on the table until Lord Sandar speaks up. Marcel? Oh, I'm sorry. I place the bottle of wine upright on the table and leave the room. I think I hear Lord Sandar call after me, but I keep going. As I pass through the kitchen, Vincent catches my arm. What happened? I open my mouth, but nothing comes out. I'm not sure what I was trying to say anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter. Vincent sighs and pats me on the shoulder. Must look awful if he thinks he needs to comfort me as if I'm a child. I'll go see what I can do to fix things. He heads to the dining room, and the cook and the two female servants stare at me. I can't exactly blame them, but I don't want to be a spectacle, so I leave the kitchen. I let my feet do the deciding and end up in the garden. Ow. Oh, Sorry, jaw went click there. The stars are out now and the air is cool. I close my eyes to try and process. I'd known he was sick, I didn't think it was that bad. I should have noticed. I mean, he had that coughing fit right in front of me. How could I not have noticed? I guess that I was just too occupied with my own feelings. I didn't want to try and sympathise with him. I wanted to hate him. I pressed my hands to my head, clutching at my hair, and let out a frustrated shout. Oh, God, why do I even care? My brain corrects itself automatically to, I don't care. No, that's right, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. I repeat that thought over and over, but the more I think it, the more I realise it's not as true as I would like it to be. I head over to the nearest planter and kick it out of frustration. Moved by instant regret, since all I get from it is an aching set of toes. What did the plant do to you? I turned round and see Kamal standing there, arms crossed. Right. Running into Kamal is another thing I should have been able to guess. He practically lives in the garden after all. I turned my face away from him, hoping to hide whatever shameful emotion is etched on it. Nothing. Then don't kick it. I know. My tone has a bitter edge to it that Kamal really doesn't deserve. Kamal sighs and then leaves. I'm about to go after him and apologise when he comes back. 2 sturdy-looking branches in his hand. He tosses me one of them and I barely catch it in surprise. I'm not exactly sure what he expects me to do with it. Suddenly, he lunges at me, and I raise the branch he gave me just in time to stop the blow. Hey! Defend yourself. He doesn't give me time to think. Sends another attack my way. I'm a little late on my timing, but still manage to knock it to the side and remain unharmed. Stop it! Kamal isn't listening. He attacks me a couple more times before I grip my teeth and go on the offensive. I charge at him and swing. He blocks it easily, but I keep up my attack, relying on wild, fast attacks in the hopes that one of them will make it through. But Kamal lives up to his ex-gladiator title and doesn't let any of them get past his defence. When my last attack hits his makeshift sword, he pushes forward, sending me backwards. I recover and go for one last powerful strike. Kamal's eyes flash, and for a brief second I see his warrior instincts come alive. And I'm about to get my ass kicked. He meets my strike with so much power that my branch goes flying. It hits a window, and the sound of breaking glass sobers us both. Oops. Oops. That's all you have to say? This has never happened if you didn't attack me. Why? Why the hell did you come at me like that? You looked like you needed to blow off some steam. What? Well, you kicked the planter. Figured you needed to hit something. I blushed brightly, thoroughly embarrassed. Kamal was worried about me and I blew up at him. I feel horrible. And again, I'm not sure how I was supposed to figure out that he was trying to help me in the brief second I'd had to think before he attacked. So, you feel any better? I hate you. But, yes. Thanks, Kamal. We spend a bit more time together before I head back to my room. I flop on my bed and crash, figuring I'll deal with the consequences tomorrow. When I wake up the next day, things go on as if nothing had happened. For some reason, no one seems to want to scold me, and it's a bit unnerving, to be frank, but I guess it's for the best. So, do we keep building up our decor? Okay, so I'm thinking at this point it's probably leadership that'll impress Vincent, knowledge that impress Borgia since he's a doctor, strength, physique to impress Kamal, so decorum to impress Eloy. So what the hey, if you can hook up with an elf, hook up with an elf. Boring. Sorry, just an email popped up. Nothing interesting though. Not unless I want home insurance, which I don't. Yeah, reputation's still at 0, and I need to get it up to 90. Lately, Lord Sharan has made a habit of leaving library books around the mansion. I wouldn't mind so much if he was actually reading them, but ever since I found a pyramid of books in the garden, my suspicion is he's just been doing it to have an ass most... I'm going to start that sentence again because my brain went blank halfway through reading it. I wouldn't mind so much if he was actually reading them. Ever since I found a pyramid of books in the garden, my suspicions that he has been doing it just to be an ass have been mostly confirmed. Still, collecting books and taking them back to the library isn't the most annoying job I could have been given. Whenever I pick one up, I end up flipping through it for a moment. before I remind myself that I have work to do. With my first decent stack of books in my arms, I start upstairs and head to the library. Takes a bit of manoeuvring, but I manage to open the door. As soon as I enter, I hear a giggle. "Naughty boy! We can't do that, you'll get me in trouble!" I turn a bright red and immediately begin backing out of the room before I'm noticed. It's the voice that replies that makes me stop short. "No, it's fine, no one will come, you worry too much." I take a step forward and look in the direction that the voices are coming from. Against the bookshelf on the opposite side of the room are Lord Chiron and a girl. Her arms are wrapped around his shoulders while his hand gently glides up her side in a fairly suggestive manner. This is something that Lord Sandor expressly told Lord Chiron not to do. And if it wasn't, it's still something that makes me mad. She might think he's being serious, but if he's just playing around like Lord Sandor did with my mother, I'm more than happy to interrupt. I set the books down on the nearest table with a loud thud to get their attention. The girl looks past Lord Chiron's shoulders and her eyes grow wide in shock. She pushes Lord Chiron away and straightens out in an attempt to cover up what they've been doing. Of course, no amount of acting can actually cover up what I've already seen. Lord Chiron turns and, after following her gaze, notices me as well. But instead of looking guilty, he looks slightly annoyed at my sudden appearance. I saw what you were doing. Count yourself lucky I was the one who caught you and not Vincent." The girl blushes brightly, gives me a small bow before scurrying off as quickly as her legs would carry her. Lord Chiron scratches the back of his neck in a bored fashion. Well, that's no fun. I take a deep breath. I'm not supposed to be rude to guests, but Lord Chiron is really asking for it. I would appreciate if you didn't flirt with Lord Sandor's servants for fun. Or what if I was actually serious about her? I roll my eyes before I can catch myself. You're not. You don't know that? Is it just me, or is he sleeping into a French accent? It's the way he's acting. It's making me... Okay, yep, screw it. From now on, you, sir, have a French accent. And since I'm British, naturally the only French accent I can do is the outrageous French accent. What's her name, then? If you're serious about it, you should be able to answer that much. Oh, that's easy. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Her name is Beautiful. He says it without a second's hesitation. I cross my arms and glare at him, not even bothering to hide my disgust. That's not her name. It's not even a name. No? I could have sworn that it was when she introduced herself as. Maybe I heard her wrong. You humans do have some strange names after all. Right. I am not buying that. You would have to be stupid to buy that. Or perhaps you would be willing to enlighten me as to what her name really is. It's... I don't even know it. You're alright, you know that? You give me crap for not knowing it, but you're just as bad as me. I blushed brightly in embarrassment. How'd I even get myself into this situation? Still, does it really matter if I know her name or not? She was definitely willing to play along, even knowing that I didn't actually know the first thing about her. It doesn't give her the right to take advantage of her. I yell it. Lord Chiron actually winces at my tone. He looks at the door quickly, perhaps hoping that no one overheard. It's a miracle that no one does. I know I should back off now before I cause any more of a scene, but I'm not done with him. Step forward, poke him in the chest hard. You think you can just do whatever you want because you're rich? People's hearts aren't toys. It meant nothing to you, but she could have lost her job. On top of that, it could ruin her reputation, make it harder for her to get a new one. Think about it. She can't get a good reference, who would hire her? Right, I've learned my lesson. I'll never... And if you got her pregnant... Whoa. Hold on a minute. I wasn't going to get her pregnant. You don't know. Yes, I do. I wasn't going to sleep with her. What? I don't sleep with women I've just met, okay? Stand there, stupidly. Somewhat taken aback by what he's just told me. You weren't going to sleep with her? No. Really? I said no, and I meant no. Then what exactly were you doing? Lord Chiron shrugs. Entertaining myself, I guess. So you were just teasing her. Not sure if that's any better than what I thought he'd been doing. Either way, it's not making me any less angry. That's a cruel way to put it. And how would you put it? Let's see. It takes a moment to think about it. I was finding out if she was interesting enough to investigate further. That's your way of getting to know someone. Sometimes, you're the worst. And you're pretty bold. I mean, most servants would not say that sort of thing to a guest. After all, it could well get them fired. He says it casually, but it's definitely meant to be a threat. and unfortunately he can easily make good in it. If he says something, I have no doubt Lord Sander would fire me. Still, even if I apologise now, Lord Chiron can still tell him. Lord Chiron might just be interested in seeing me grovel before he does it. But can I really afford to assume it won't make a difference? I don't want to apologise, but it's the difference between keeping my job and getting fired. Oh, piss off. Yeah, I figured he was going to respect that. I don't care if it makes a difference or not. There is no way I'm apologising to him. That being said, if I'm going to get fired anyway, I am going to make it worth it. Go ahead. Run to Lord Sandar. Tell I am insulted you. Won't make my words any less true. You're a despicable brat who thinks he can do whatever he wants without facing any consequences. There's so much that I want to say that I don't even know where to begin as I try to figure out what else he needs to hear. I end up settling for immature. I hope you die alone. I expect Lord Chiron to get angry, but he just laughs, which is much more annoying. To make matters worse, he actually applauds me. The words could have been a little more eloquent, but the intent is there. Congratulations! I find you interesting. In fact, I might be willing to make a promise with you. A promise? Not sure I like the sound of that. Yep. I promise not to intentionally bother any of the female servants while I'm here. And the catch is, well, I still have to pester someone. I think I know where this is going, and I do not like it. And you decided to pester me. Exactly. You're really that bored. With Lord Sandar stuck in bed all day, yes. Then why don't you go home? You probably said everything you need to say to Lord Sandar by now anyway. That might be hard to believe, but unlike most of the people who come and go around here, I actually like Lord Sandar. Being here for him isn't just a formality. The way he spoke to Lord Sandar when I first met him, I do actually believe that. And I let out a sigh. I guess I won't be able to stop you anyway. That's right. And you really leave the rest of Lord Sandar's servants alone. I promised, didn't I? I don't know if your promises are worth a damn thing. Well, you'll have plenty of time to find out. I let out a sigh and pick up the books I'd set on the table. Whatever he ends up doing, I still have a job to do. I look at the spine and figure out where I need to head before moving to the right bookshelf. Lord Chiron follows at an annoyingly close distance. You know, if you're that bored you could help. That could. But you're not going to? You guessed it. I think it's funnier to watch you do it. I doubt it. Well, I doubt you ever have fun in the first place. I have fun. Oh really? How? I wave one of the books in front of his face. You see this thing? It's called a book. Some people have fun by actually reading them instead of hiding them in strange places to make more work for other people. What kinds? Huh? You like books? That's what you were saying when you were mocking me, right? So my question is, what types of books do you like? All of them. I turn back towards the shelf and shelve one of the books before heading to the next shelf over. That's not a real answer, you know. Yes, it is. You have to have some sort of a preference. I didn't really have the luxury of having a preference before I came here. I was kind of stuck with whatever the neighbours decided they didn't want anymore. I learned to appreciate whatever I got. All books have something interesting about them. Except Dan Brown books. I'm sorry, that joke's like a decade out of date, isn't it? What's the... I could have gone for Twilight books, I suppose, but again, that feels like it's out of date now. What's the latest major book craze that's almost certainly crap? And again, I'm not using 50 Shades of Grey as an example because I think at this point it's too old, so... I genuinely don't know. It doesn't really matter, but... I don't know about that. I've read some pretty awful ones. Still, you have to have some sort of a preference. You can't tell me that if I offered you a choice between two books of different genres, you'd just pick randomly. Well, guess I'd pick just about anything over romance novels. Really? That's the genre you'd exclude? Even over things like books on law? At least books on law are useful. Romance novels are ludicrous drivel, possibly providing some small sense of entertainment. Give people unrealistic ideas about relationships. Let me guess, you were jilted by a previous lover and have never quite gotten over it. No! Right then. He smiles smugly. No, you're not. Never been in a romantic relationship with anyone. He gives me a pitying look. And I was right before, you really don't know how to have fun. You're the one who's bored. Anyway, I'd appreciate it if you let me get to work. I should have had this done by now. I expect him to ignore my request and keep talking, but he actually listens and I'm able to put away the books. When I shelved the last book, a thought occurs to me. Eloy has been placing books all around the mansion. If he had even a small inkling of common sense, he would have known that one of Lord Sandor's servants would have to eventually be put in charge of returning them. If he knew that, why did he pick the library for this little tryst with a servant girl? Unless he wanted to be caught. Why would he want to be caught? I steal a glance his way as I try to think it through. He wanted to see what someone would do if they caught him in that situation? Gimmicks are how he entertains himself. That's the conclusion I come up with. And if that's the truth behind his actions, I hate him. Okay. Hey, we're actually starting to gain reputation points. Awesome. Right, that to me is an excellent point to end this part, so I will say thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next.